My name is Dusty Bankston, and I used to be homeless. As many of you heard on the last video, I became homeless after my mom died 10 years ago. So about a year after that, I was depressed and I lost my job, so I became homeless. I stayed here at Paul Park from November to the beginning of February. This is actually my first time coming back here since I left. It's very, very emotional for me because I haven't been here since this all happened. So it was right before Christmas, and I was really depressed. I was actually sitting under that bridge right over there, and I thought about killing myself. I thought the world would be better off without me in it. I thought the people who cared about me would be better off without me in this world. And if I could have got up the nerve, I probably would have did it. But the one thing that kept popping in my head was my daughter. So I didn't do it, and thank God I didn't do it. And it all started after that day. It all started to turn around. So that was the turning point for me. It took me a little bit, but then eventually I got out of it. So when I decided, it was the beginning of February, when I decided enough was enough, I went to the library. I Googled homeless shelters. The first one that popped up was the Hospitality House. So I walked from here all the way there. The Hospitality House is a daytime shelter, but I was pointed in the direction of the overnight shelters. So once I'd been in the shelters for almost a week, and I got a job through a temp agency, and I worked there for 2 weeks. I had gotten my phone turned on, and I got a phone call from Blackhawk Engineering, which was one of the jobs that I had applied for when I was on the streets here. And I went and interviewed, and they offered me the job right on the spot, so I took it. The only problem is it was third shift, so I couldn't stay in the shelters working a third shift job. You can only be there from 4 in the afternoon till 9 in the morning. You can't sleep there if you're working third shift. So Johnny, who's the director of the Hospitality House, I asked her if I could stay at the Hospitality House. And it was still cold. It was really, really cold. And she said, yeah. So that allowed me to take this job and to build myself out of it. And that was just the beginning steps, you know. And as I volunteered there and as I got closer to everybody, they treat everybody like family. I always tell a story about I had to have 2 root canals, and they did them in the same day, and I was in so much pain. One of the volunteers took me, picked me up, took me to get my medicine. So we're standing in line, and I'm in excruciating pain, and she starts talking to all the people working behind the register. Kate, can we hurry this up? He's in so much pain. And that just shows how much they care. They don't look at you as a homeless person. They look at you as part of their family. And all the help that has been given through the Hospitality House that I've seen with my own eyes and that I've been a part of is really, really something that needs to be done. Every Sunday I'd go to church twice. I always tell people the first church I went to because they just had good hot cocoa. But the second church, they were actually like friendly to me. They wanted to get to know me. So after church one day, this guy asked me if I wanted to go out to eat, and I made up some excuse. I didn't have no money. I was broke this week. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll pay for it." So he took me out for lunch, and we sat and talked for a good couple hours. And he didn't even know I hadn't even eaten for like 3 days. So it was really like that really kind of started waking me up, and got to the point where finally on that day in February I I just had enough, and I wanted to get out of the situation. So, like I said earlier, I went to the hospitality house. While I was staying at the hospitality house, there was like 8 other guys there staying because it was cold that winter. So me and a couple of the guys that were staying there saved our money, and we got a place. We actually moved right next door. It's funny. I always say we moved right next door so they wouldn't miss us. But I decided that I wanted to give back. I wanted to not just have them help me. I wanted to give back. So I decided to start volunteering. And I volunteered. I've been there for 9 years now, or not quite 9 years now. And some of the things I've seen during that time, things I've helped do, it just amazed me how much the volunteers at the hospitality house were willing to help people, and the extent that they'll go to help people. So I've driven a guy to Wisconsin because he had a cart full of his personal belongings and he couldn't take it on the bus, so I drove him to Wisconsin. Not because it was something I wanted to do that day, but I wanted to help him like I had gotten help from the hospitality house. Clothing, we give away so much clothing. It's unreal. So when I came there, I only had the clothes I was wearing. So they gave me new jeans, new shoes, new everything, and like to just love people that much to do that is just amazing. There's not much room at the hospitality house. We can't house people. So to have a place to actually house people is amazing. People who work off shifts, people who can't stay in the shelters, they need a place to stay also. And I feel worse for them because they have to make a choice between either having a job or having a place to sleep, and that should not be a choice you have to make. Being a part of the warming center has been extraordinary. There's so many people who have volunteered their time to get this thing going because they realize what the need is. And I appreciate all of them, and I appreciate everyone who has donated so far, but we have a long ways to go, and this is something that we need. It's not something we want, it's something we need. And as someone who's been homeless and has been in a situation, if there would have been a place like that, who knows? I wouldn't have slept outside for 4 months. I wouldn't have had to sleep in the cold. I wouldn't have had to walk around. I wouldn't have had to try to figure out what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. There would be people who would help me do that. So that is the biggest thing about the warming center. It's not just a place for them to sleep. It's a place for them to come to get resources. So when I got my backpack, first thing I did is I put new socks on and I threw my old socks in the backpack. So once I moved out and I got settled in, I was cleaning one day and I found my backpack. So I started going through it. And these are actually the socks I had on when I came to the hospitality house. And this is a poem that I wrote. It says, I sit in this room with nothing to eat, a million holes in the shoes on my feet, wearing the same clothes I had on yesterday. How did my life end up this way? In a few short months, my life took a huge swerve, thinking of ending it if I only had the nerve. But while looking for a place to sleep where it's warm, many faces started to shine through the storm. They gave me food, clothes, and so much more. They helped me become a better person than I was before. I hope everyone gets to know people like this. I'm so grateful they pulled me away from the dark abyss. So I gave these socks to Johnny because she wanted to make this shadow box. And a couple weeks later, I wrote this poem just kind of reflecting on my time being homeless and how I felt coming out of it. So it's something amazing. It sits on the table at the hospitality house every day. You can come and see it.